What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering video. And today we're going to be looking at the Modern Showcase Challenge results. And typically we don't look at the challenges and leagues and different things with certain decks. We generally try to keep it on just one deck, kind of explain what's going on, how it fits into the metagame, and those kind of things. Like the reasons to play the decks. And the reason why we're going over the Showcase Challenge is, for one, it's a little bit more of like I would say a premium event. You have to have 40 qualifier points on Magic Online, which normally means that you have to do pretty well in leagues, like just getting the 3-2 league, essentially where you cash it, you end up making your entry back, plus just a little bit more, you end up getting like a treasure chest and one qualifier point. So you have to have essentially a 60% like match win rate, and do that over 40 leagues, which is then like 200 matches. So you have to play at the most like 200 matches to get 40 play points, and a league could take anywhere from like an hour and a half to 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, depending on the deck you play. So definitely for that, it's a lot of time commitment, and most people don't necessarily have that kind of commitment. So it just kind of puts into perspective, the players that are kind of qualifying for these showcase events or trying to qualify for the showcase events. You can also get them through like the actual like challenges, depending on what format you play. But the idea being that, you have to perform very well in different challenges and different leagues to get enough qualifier points to play in these events, so that you have some really skilled players, or, I guess maybe in the very, very rare cases, someone that's very dedicated to just, grinding leagues. And, again, if you're like a 3-2 player in leagues, you're probably not going to do very well in the showcase. And the whole reason for the showcase, you get into some of the higher tiered events on Magic Online, and I believe that you can actually qualify for the Pro Tour and like the World Championship through these sort of things, and also get some pretty unique prizes as well. So there is a reason to kind of play on Magic Online, because you have that kind of same route. It's just, I would say, a little bit easier, maybe more streamlined to do it in paper. And there's going to be a huge reason why we're going to be looking at this Modern Showcase Challenge here today. So definitely want to strap in for that and check it out, because Modern might be in trouble. I thought Standard was going to be the format that was in trouble, but Modern is trying to like absolutely catch up and maybe even speed race against the Standard format. But of course, before we look into the results of the challenge, look at the metagame breakdown and look at this honestly abysmal Modern format right now. If you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to see more videos from me where we talk a lot about the Modern Standard format, as well as some other longer form videos talking about just basically anything and everything to do with the Modern, Standard, and Pioneer formats. So if that interests you, please consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell so you know when videos get posted. It's a free, easy way to support me and my content. If you want to support me even further, I have a few links in the description down below. One goes to the Casual Spikes YouTube channel, where me and my co-host Randy over at MTG with Randy basically do a lot of the same things. We like to go pretty deep into a lot of the Pro Tour, Regional Championship, World Championship kind of metagames, break it down, make some predictions on what's going on there, as well as talking a lot about the competitive environment of Magic to get you ready for your next RCQ. So definitely go and check out the Casual Spikes podcast if you want more content from me. And if you want even more, because, how could there be more, Dakota? I do have a Twitch channel that I'm going to start streaming on decently regularly. That's the hope. And we actually just been playing some Aether Drift Limited, so I've been having a lot of fun doing that. So we play a little bit of Limited, we try to get into Modern, that sort of thing. So go ahead and check out the Twitch channel, linked in the description down below. And then finally, I want to thank the sponsor of the channel, Manatraders. If you use my code in the description down below, you'll get 5% off your monthly subscription to where you can play in these leagues and challenges and sort of those kind of things. And you're not necessarily committed to one specific deck. You can go ahead and swap them out, try different things, see what you feel comfortable with, and even make other minor changes and stuff like that as you kind of play the deck more and kind of build up some of your prizes. So maybe you can build your own Magic the Gathering collection on MTGO. But again, if you want to kind of get started on that journey, please use my code in the description down below and you'll get 5% off your monthly subscription. I want to thank Manatraders for being the sponsor of the video, and let's go ahead and check out the Modern Showcase Challenge from February 15th of 2025. So here we have the Modern Showcase Challenge. Again, this is something that you have to invest a lot of time into to get into this sort of event. You need to get 40 qualifier points, which for a lot of players is a lot, because again, you have to have some pretty good consistency. You have to have price somewhere in the ballpark of like a 55 to like 60% win rate, I would say, and again, that's adjusting for like the times where like you win you go 4-1, and maybe the other times you go 2-3. But again, like, it does take a good amount of time and investment. And even if you qualify for these events, you have some really good players playing in these events. So real quick, I'm going to throw up the graphic for, what exactly the players and stuff are playing for. This is just the top 32 right here. I think this is probably the most important because this is where you get a good amount of the prizes, or at least in some world where you get kind of a decent amount of stuff. Really, the top 16 is the one where you get some pretty interesting things. And speaking of the top 16, I guess looking at the top 8, Grinding Station, Temur Breach, Grinding Station, which are all Temur Breach. 6th place, Esper Murktide. 7th place, Grinding Station. 8th, Demir Murktide. So we have 6 Grinding Station decks on the top 8, along with 2 Murktide decks. 2 different ones. We've seen Esper Murktide kind of go into white. This deck in particular, we'll expand it here real quick to kind of look at it. Isn't playing like the Catchermouse combo, but is playing 3 Pest Control in the sideboard, 2 Prismatic Ending in the main, and the rest of it. Oh, it is playing the Catchermouse, so it is playing the combo. Potentially, no, it's not even playing the combo. So it's getting to do the Catchermouse thing, just Menace, Lifelink, Indestructible God. You're going to be able to draw cards every time you exile cards with Frog. So not necessarily playing the combo to where they can just, go infinite and you can kill your opponent in one turn, but definitely getting to do some pretty neat things. Subtlety is also going to allow you to draw cards with Catchermouse as well. This is kind of sweet. And then, of course, we have just a regular old Demir Murktide doing its thing. Graveyard Trespasser still hanging out. Dreams of Steel and Oil, also a pretty good one. Pretty neat there as well. So, this is a pretty crazy top 8, considering that, for a while on this channel, we've been preaching about basically Boros Energy, Eldrazi, and Breach metagame, and Breach has definitely exacerbated like the gap between the number 1 deck in the format and the number 2, because I think Breach was at least like, in a very good position to be the best deck, but I think it just wasn't, like, it wasn't quite there. Not like the deck wasn't that good, not that it had proven itself, but the fact that, for me at least, Boros Energy was, like, at the top of the metagame before we had the bans in December. Then we had the bans in December, and Boros Energy was still the most played deck. People were still performing at a very high level with the deck. I thought Breach was maybe a little too complicated to necessarily get the, numbers that Boros Energy had. And Boros Energy was just so consistent. To me, it is just bright, like, Grinding Station had to have like a good tournament or two to really solidify it, and I'm willing to change my opinion that, at least from then, Boros Energy is not the best deck in the format anymore. It has to be this Grinding Station deck, and, from all the regional championships we've seen where it's dominated, and even up to the regional championship in Portland where it was the most played deck in every single part of the tournament and just came up just short in the finals from actually winning the event, is pretty insane. And, again, we see 6 of the top 8 decks are Grinding Breach, with surprisingly 2 Murktide decks in the top 8. So just like, that's kind of like a good wrap up there for it. It's also some like pretty well-known players here. There's Canister, which I really enjoy watching him play Magic. He plays Amulet Titan a lot. Just missed out, on 9th place. We have Boros Energy here at 10th. Ruby Storm kind of up here. This is a weird tournament because usually we see Ruby Storm kind of scrub out in like the day ones of regional championships, and then the Murktide decks perform pretty bad, all things considered. And we have 3 of them in the top 11. And then, of course, Amulet Titan won the regional championship here at 9th. Pretty cool there. Another Grinding Station deck. You have Mono Black Midrange. You have Eldrazi Ramp, finally the first Eldrazi Ramp, and then 2 Boros Energy decks rounding out the top 8 or the top 16 of the event. So, all those players getting the play points that we just showed up on the screen, like a bunch of treasure chests, which are roughly like 2 point some odd amount of ticks, which translates like $2 and some odd cents. And then just outside the top 16, we have 2 Demir Mill decks, another Boros Energy deck, another Ramp deck, Eldrazi deck, McWinsauce playing the white-black deck. So, that's the first copy of that deck that we see. Another Ruby Storm player, another Boros Energy, Temur Breach, another Esper Murktide, Eldrazi Ramp, Grinding Station, Temur Breach. We see actually a 4-color version of Breach here, and then we have Jeskai Energy, Temur Breach, Esper, Murktide, and Grinding Station. Meaning that of this metagame, we have 8 Grinding Station decks and 4 Breach decks, which is 12 in the top 32. which is absolutely insane. And we know that 6 of them are in the top 8. We have Boros Energy at 5 copies, which crazy that it actually performed at a higher clip than the rest of these. But again, we also know Boros Energy is one of the most consistent decks in the format to play. So pretty good to, I guess just Boros Energy doing kind of the Boros Energy thing. Maybe a little more surprising because I would have expected maybe some of these other decks to kind of show up, but it is what it is. We have 3 or 4 Murktide decks between Temur and Esper Murktide. Two of the 4 of these being in the top 8, which is pretty neat. Or I guess one of each of these being in the top 8, so that's really cool. Mill showing up, Ruby Storm, and then Amulet Titan, Mono Black Midrange, just kind of energy, kind of rounding them out. So this is an insane showcase, and really just begs the question of like what is going to happen now in the modern format, or what should happen, because we do have a ban announcement. I believe it's March 3rd is the next ban restricted announcement. I don't expect any changes to the modern formats, only for the fact that we're going to have a regional championship, I believe, taking place that weekend that we have that ban and restricted announcement. So I would not necessarily expect them to make any changes to the format, because again, they've kind of avoided doing it for RCQs. So I would say if that rule kind of exists for RCQs, where we're not going to make any changes because players study the format, whatever, that we're not going to do it for the regional championship. So we're going to have Grinding Station here for at least another month and a half for Modern, and potentially expecting some changes to be made before the regional championship qualifying season, which the next one is going to be Modern, I believe, sometime probably near the end of March into April is going to start that season and end the current standard season that we're in. But yeah, like this breach deck might be a problem. We have talked extensively about the Underworld breach deck. I actually have a video talking about it as probably being one of the most busted cards ever printed in Magic the Gathering. Even if it's not, it's got to be up there. It only was a matter of time that before it performed this well in Modern, and here we go. We finally got it, and just like it did in Pioneer, just like it did in Legacy, it is absolutely dominating the Modern format and is currently one of the best things to play. And as something that I've preached a lot, I even said it on the podcast this past weekend, that if you are playing Modern, a lot of the time, it makes more sense for you to play the deck that you've been comfortable with. Like if you've been playing Yawgmoth, if you've been playing the Murktide decks, if you've been playing Eldrazi, whatever the case may be, even Mill to a point, those decks, like you get so many percentage points because your opponents don't really know what you're doing, but you know what they're doing and you know what your cards do, so you can just kind of like work around in certain ways to like kind of put some pressure on your opponent in ways that maybe they don't necessarily expect, that only you really have the knowledge to. Now, of course, that doesn't really work very well when you're playing one of the tier 1 strategies, because that's the first deck that I'd say players really try to like test out against is those tier 1 decks. But Grinding Breach might be so good. It might just be better. It's so much better than everything else that I would say if you have any amount of time really to learn how to play this deck, it might just be worth it to play it. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy to pick up by any stretch of the imagination. It is a very hard deck to play. It just seems like it's so good at this point that as long as you can learn to play through a few hate pieces and try to figure out how to maximize your value and everything like that, it might be a deck that if you are a Yawgmoth player, if you're an energy player, maybe even a Murktide player, white-black, whatever the case may be, it might be worth it to play it, because right now it doesn't seem like players can play enough hate to hate it out, and it doesn't seem like it really matters. Like, yes, if you put a few pieces in play, it's not going to win, or at least it's going to have a very hard time trying to win the game, but it also doesn't seem like it matters because you have to have multiple games like that. On top of that, if they win game 1, it's almost impossible for you to win game 2 and game 3. Sure, it is possible, but I mean, are you really going to bet anything on it that, like, you'd have to have, like, a pretty good matchup game 1 against Grinding Breach? There's times you can just get comboed on turn 2. It's just insanity, and we could talk about it forever, and I'm already starting to ramble as it is, but, that's just really kind of the point that we're at in the Modern format is it's Grinding Breach versus everything else. I'd say that we had, like, Boros Energy, Temur Breach, Grinding Station. Those were the 3 decks in the format. I think right now you have to be playing Grinding Station. And, if you are and you're a very competent player with it, I can almost guarantee that you're going to day 2 at the event. Obviously, there's a good amount of players that don't make it because there was over 200 players that registered and only like 68 of them ended up making day 2, which was still like 27, 28%, something crazy like that. So definitely something to keep in mind. But I wouldn't expect this deck to be around for too much longer. So definitely, if you have some modern tournaments coming up and you're able to play this deck, I would play it. And just like when Nadu was around, like I would have played Nadu if I had access to the cards and whatever. And then I would have played Boros Energy right after it, because it's a deck that with a minimal amount of training and practice, you can still end up just like mopping the floor with people. And Grinding Breach, like I said, if you have a little bit of time to actually put into it, it's probably better than most of the decks that you could play in the modern format, hands down, that you could just like pick up, take a few weeks with it, really grind hard, study hard with it, and you can probably perform just fine at a regional championship. But yep, that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. Comment down below what you think of the modern format currently. If this is surprising to you, not so much surprising. Do you even care? Do you even play Modern? I know people let me know that they don't play certain formats when they watch my videos, which weird flex, but I guess I respect the hustle, just trying to get likes on videos. So you can do that sort of thing. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel. Check out the links in the description down below. Follow the Twitch channel. Follow the YouTube, or subscribe to the YouTube channel, excuse me. And yeah, that's it for me. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you all in the next one.